Hi, Sarah here. Welcome back. We're continuing our deck study club of the Gentle Tarot by Mari in the Sky. This week we looked at the Wandssuit. Let's get to it. So first, normally I like to do an icebreaker activity where we check in with each other by just sharing a relevant card that has come up for us throughout the week. I skipped it this time because I just wanted to jump into discussion, but for this video, I will share a relevant card. The Two of Stones or the Two of Pentacles. In this card, I see balance, I see priorities, and focus. Last week when we were talking about the stone suit, one of the keywords I came up with was connection or connectedness. So here, feeling connected with the things that I am putting my energy to. I have been so used to multitasking and balancing things my entire life, but this time it feels intentional. The things that I am balancing right now are a lot of doctor appointments, especially because our health insurance might change. So I've been following up with all my doctors and getting things started, like an allergy shot program. It is taking a lot of energy, but it is reminding me that I do want to do these things, even if they may be hard, even if they may be a little bit stressful. Honestly, I never had capacity to think about my life or my longevity before. I think one of the things of getting older is we do think about longevity and the long-termness of our lives and how we want to live. I'm realizing that I took health and wellness for granted when I was younger, as I'm imagining a lot of people in their teens and 20s do. I want to share some of the art symbolism that Mari mentioned in the guidebook here. The setting of our Two of Stones is very much Aleutian Islands. The strong sunlight rays shining down are witness to the great amount of trust that is held here. The luminescent rainbow across the body is our inner magic manifesting external physical realm gifts. The flowers and birds are attracted to the harmonious energy emanating here. Rainbow is one of my favorite colors or favorite patterns. The cascade of colors, the sequence of colors, is very aesthetically pleasing to me. In this card, I can also see this rainbow as reflecting the sky. Perhaps could mean like reflecting our values or reflecting our aspirations, like the sky being aspirations. This figure's eyes are closed, which is in contrast to other figures' eyes being open, such as in this card here. Perhaps also trusting the process. It could also mean doing things by feeling rather than by thinking. Once the ball is rolling, once things are in motion, there might not be as much need to overthink or overplan for whatever the next step is, or to question if everything is worth it. I know that these doctor appointments are worth it, and I have to trust in myself and in my support network and in the doctors that I have chosen that we are all going to work through all these things together. So that's what's coming up for me with the Two of Stones as a relevant card recently. Okay, now let's look at the Wandssuit and the keywords and the things that came up in discussion today. So as usual, we started by summarizing the Wandssuit in 1 to 3 keywords and sharing our keywords with the group. So if you'd like to participate, feel free to pause the video and look over all of these cards and come up with 1 to 3 keywords that you feel summarize the qualities of this Wandssuit. So the first keyword that I came up with was expression. The feelings, ideas, desires, all those things that we feel are being expressed and made tangible or made visible outside of us. In contrast to that, the cup suit, the water suit, can actually be a suit of feeling things internally. So whereas cups is feeling and holding things inside of us, the wand suit is truly just expressing and creating things outside of us. And a related keyword I came up with is the word energy, because everything that we express, it becomes energy. It becomes moving and dynamic. Other keywords that people shared that we discussed, the word identity came up. We talked about identity and ego with the wand suit in contrast to the stone suit. Last week, I talked about the stones being about connectedness. I feel like the stones can represent almost like lack of ego because it's not about I am, I want, I feel. The stones is truly just I do. And the concept of identity or ego in the wand suit feels like a very direct contrast to the lack of ego almost in the stones suit. Other keywords I came up with: creativity and drive. Creativity and expression are similar keywords. We're creating energy, making something, whether from scratch or whether from things that we are internalizing from around us or synthesizing from around us. Other keywords were warmth and dynamic, which relates to energy, and also forceful. And Jo shares some fascinating science-related concepts. She shared the concept of exothermic reactions. So we had like a quick brush up on exothermic versus endothermic. I vaguely remember these things from chemistry class, but it has been so long ago. The root exo means external or outward, and endo means inward. So a chemical reaction that is endothermic, it will make you feel cold as the reaction sucks in heat from the air around it. Whereas an exothermic is releasing heat. So as the reaction happens, it's releasing heat and energy into the air around it. Fire is an example of an exothermic reaction or an exothermic process. It also needs external sources of fuel. And the analogy relating it to us and our creativity could be that it needs an external source of care, external source of inspiration. In our creative processes, we might think that the best way to be creative is if we stay stuck at our desk just staring at this blank piece of paper and the words will magically come to life. But most often, that is just not how creativity works. That is not how ideas come to fruition. Oftentimes, I experience more creativity and more ideas when I'm doing body movements, walking around, even going to the gym and actually doing cardio stuff to actually get my body and brain moving. Anytime that I'm doing anything else but the thing that I'm supposed to be doing, that can actually stimulate a lot of creativity too. When I'm less intense and less like gripping my creativity so hard, it just feels like I have room to breathe and I'm able to be more receptive to anything else in life because I'm not so focused on trying to create something from nothing. For us to be able to create things, we need to be able to put in things. And sometimes our well is just dry. Sometimes our source of inspiration is just dry. So, when our creativity just has nothing to go off of, that is a key for us to really change it up. Body movements and experiencing life and being open to other things that are not directly related to the thing we're trying to be creative about. Those are some ideas for stimulating creativity. Okay, so those were keywords that we came up with for the Wandssuit. Other things, other points of discussion for the Wandssuit. Someone pointed out that there are a lot of humans in this suit, and we compared it to the amount of humans in the other suits. Not only are there a lot of humans in the Wandssuit, which makes sense, especially for a suit that we are correlating with identity and ego and self, we also noticed that some of these other suits have more transparent humans, like silhouettes of humans. So silhouettes here in the stone suit, definitely this one here. Looking at the thunder suit, lots of silhouettes here, 3 out of these cards. This one, yeah, it's a silhouette as well. So yeah, in contrast, all of the wand suits, there are no silhouettes here, save for the Lynx silhouette in the 9 of Wands. All these people are fully fleshed out. They are very solid. There could be some symbolism there about using our full bodies to create perhaps transparent figures, or these silhouette figures can represent being more connected to spirit and or letting experiences flow through you. So yeah, interesting things to think about there with the silhouettes versus the fully fleshed out humans. We also noticed the daytime and the nighttime, the backgrounds of these cards. In the thunder suit, we noticed that it seems to be a lot of nighttime or dark backgrounds. And the stone suit had a lot more color in the backgrounds, a lot more daytime looking backgrounds. I guess that's debatable. Some of these cards could look like nighttime. In comparison, I see a lot of daytime in the top half of the suit, the first half of the suit, but then as we go on, we move to more darker backgrounds and what looks like nighttime scenery. So that's an interesting progression there. Jo shared some seasonal associations. For her, the wand suit correlates to summer, the stone suit correlates to autumn, and the thunder suit correlates to winter, and cups is spring. Hearing those associations did remind me that it's okay to have different expectations for myself throughout the year. This was the first year or the first time that I actually noticed my shifts in mood and energy as the sun started setting earlier. And now with these associations, I do understand that it's okay to not expect myself to be all wandsy and energy and creative and wow, I'm so alive and bright and lively in the winter because the environment is changing. It's okay if my own energy and thoughts are changing because I am related to the environment and the environment is affecting me. And then we just highlighted specific cards that were standing out to us in the Wandssuit. So the first card that we talked about was the 5 of Wands here. There were so many things that we noticed and that we discussed about this card. I brought up this card because I noticed that I was having a particularly hard time with the 5s. Last week, I had brought up difficulty understanding the 5 of Stones, and also I had difficulty understanding the 5 of Thunder. And we talked about this card as well, so I'll talk about that later too. So yeah, I guess continuing the pattern, the Five of Wands is also perplexing to me. So we looked at the guidebook and Jo shared some animal facts that she knew. She and Mari in the guidebook both shared about how bears communicate very thoroughly during their fights. When I think about humans having conflict, usually people are not communicating very thoroughly. Sometimes when our energies or personalities are clashing, there might not be a desire to try to find shared ground or communicate thoroughly. It becomes like a fight to have dominance. Jo shared that for animals, since they don't have doctors or healthcare or like magical healing powers, it is not in their benefit to get in fights all the time with their own species. It would be beneficial to try to talk things out and work things out by posturing or intimidating each other without getting into actual physical clashes. So that was really interesting to think about. For our human conflicts, this could be an acknowledgement that yes, this conflict exists. We hope that we can communicate as these bears are doing so that they're not actually getting in a physical tussle. And Mari wrote in the guidebook that she has seen a lot of bear conflicts not end in physical fights rather than the ones that do end in fights. She could have depicted these bears being in an actual physical tussle, but these bears are not in a physical fight. They're communicating. And I'm also noticing this ray of sunshine coming from the corner to the center of the card here, almost highlighting the center where the bears are like exchanging their words and growls. The composition of this card is also interesting because we see the bears in a very narrow top part of the card, and we see so many different layers of whatever is happening down here. The conflict might look like a surface level thing, but it's built on so many different layers of perhaps history, or perhaps different layers, different levels of what's being conflicted over. The bears being in this narrow box can also represent losing sight of the big picture and or just being very focused on themselves. It feels very constricting to be in this like little box compared to these big open scenes in these other cards. So yeah, that was the Five of Wands, really stimulating discussion. Another card that we talked about was the Seven of Wands. Jo shared about her experiences doing prescribed fire in her work as a conservationist, and she shared about the benefits of prescribed fire. So I'm learning that prescribed fire can be really healthy or helpful for clearing away invasive species. It gives the native species and or the beneficial species underneath the surface a chance to grow because the surface level stuff is being cleared away. The figure in this card is standing very openly towards this fire, and there's no fear in their face. And that's really interesting to think about because I have seen a couple of fires and they're honestly really scary. You know, that smoke is going, the air around you is getting warmer. So it's interesting to think about what it could be like to train yourself to be okay with the fire and to remind yourself of the benefits of the fire, even if your human instincts or your past instincts might have been scared of the fire. And it's interesting to notice the raven here in the Seven of Wands that also appears in the Flower of Wands. Like maybe they're different ravens, but you know, shared symbolism here, raven and raven. The Flower of Wands or the Queen of Wands definitely gives a vibe of being very in your zone, in your element, in your power. So that's a really great animal, I feel, to supplement the Seven of Wands here. The last card we talked about was the Nine of Wands. Here we see a lynx that is camouflaged in the plants here. I was perplexed at how different this imagery is from the Nine of Wands imagery. The Nine of Wands imagery, usually it's conveying something like the final push, the last steps of the project. So we talked about how this lynx being camouflaged, it could be like regrouping as you're getting ready to pounce, almost refocusing like all of your energy towards this one moment, towards the last moment when you're about to pounce. Randomly reminded me of how when you do a performance, you usually have a pep talk with all your performers, all your actors and crew, do some last exercises to shake out the nerves before you get on stage and do your performance. So I guess this could be like the final pep talk before the ultimate push, the ultimate performance. This is a card I'll be thinking on more because I don't have a strong grasp on it still. And then we also talked about the court cards because why not? So the first court card I talked about was the Harvest of Wands. There was a pattern again in the past suits where I was not too strong on the harvests. So here's the Harvest of Thunder and the Harvest of Stones, the moose here and the musk ox. Then we have a wolf in the Harvest of Wands. I looked at the guidebook and Jo also shared some more facts because she is so knowledgeable. The alphas, the leaders of the pack, they have to be mindful of the pack dynamics within their own pack and between their pack and other packs in the area. Wolves have to guide their own packs through these harsh environments and through hunting so that everyone can survive. It gave me some things to think about compared to these other animals that may or may not act in herds. If I remember correctly, caribou are herd animals, but not moose. Moose can be more solitary. Musk oxen are in herds. They put their weak towards the middle and they have the strong ones towards the outside of the herds. It's suddenly making sense to me that being a master of the wand's energy means being able to read the room and be aware of the energies happening around you and even within you, compared to like the thought leader, I guess, the quiet and silent like thought leader of the Harvest of Thunder and the protector mentality of the Harvest of Stones. So yeah, interesting things to compare and contrast here, wands versus all these other suits. We talked about the root of wands because it's fascinating that this little weasel can be such a ferocious fighter. Weasels and ermines can be predator and prey. So they are very fierce because they also know that like they could be overtaken at any time. Quickly touched on the differences between crows and ravens. That's all that's coming to mind right now for the Wands Quartz cards. And lastly, I'll briefly mention one card that I was having trouble with. So we just discussed this card some more and shared more ideas. So I brought up the Five of Thunder because in a lot of other Five of Swords cards, I see kind of same interpretations of like, you've won the battle but lost the war, check your ego. Usually something about a battle or a fight, and I don't always resonate with that. Most of the time, I don't even know what I'm winning. I don't know what battles I'm fighting that I'm winning or losing. This Five of Thunder is already very different from those other Five of Swords, but even after reading the guidebook, I was still having a hard time grasping this card. The story in this card is that this person wants to bring their lightning bolts up to the mountain, and they need the fox to kind of help them bring the lightning bolts the rest of the way. There are no more stepping stones with this rest of the path up towards the mountain. That could possibly mean like there's some obstacles there, and or it's a lot harder for you, and maybe it's not actually built for you. So this could relate to reassessing your goal and seeing if your values are actually lining up with your goal or something, if your thoughts or ideas are actually lining up towards your goal. The fox here is a reminder to accept support, especially again with our goals or the things that we want to do. Again, seeing the lack of stepping stones, this could be acceptance over what we don't have resources for or what we don't have control over. For example, if we find ourselves fixating too much on something that we just cannot control, or that we need other pieces to happen because there's only so much we can do at this time. But yeah, I still am having trouble conceptualizing this card and applying it to anything tangible in my life. So I'll just continue to simmer on this more and meditate on this more. And I'm sure in time, I might get it, I might not. So yeah, that was our deck study club discussion for this week. And next week we will be talking about the cup suit. As always, anyone is free to join the Discord server and join us in our deck study club. You do not have to talk or even type. You can just lurk and enjoy our company and enjoy our stimulating conversations. The link to the server is in the description. And with that, that's all I got for today. Thanks for watching. Bye.